Welcome, folks, to the first episode of the new year. We are in 2024 and we're excited to be back. Took a couple of weeks off, had to go and did some things refined and make sure all the guests that were going to be coming on for the next month or so are nice and lined up. And I'm excited to tell you guys that this month is going to be packed. And the first to welcome us back with the new year is a man that I met at a networking event who had just an absolute open heart. And I'm excited to dive into these topics. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my man PJ with us today. PJ, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is PJ. Born and raised in Haiti. Moved here when I was 12. Went to college, got married, had kids, started a business. Just like to have fun, good time, and positive vibe. I started a little bit, so I apologize in advance, but excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, man. And we are certainly excited to have you, PJ. So, real quick, before we get into it, I just got to do a couple of media checks, make sure that things are looking right on this end. So, you guys, y'all know how I do whenever we start these things up, these first few minutes. There's a little bit of testing and whatnot, because I got to tell y'all about something that happened with an episode I did before cast went on the break, and I'll get to that just in a second here. All right, bada bing, bada boom, and excellent, 100%.
Awesome.
I got it. All right, so what it was that happened, you guys, was I had an entire episode I did with somebody, and it was a fantastic. It was myself and a woman, and we were going back and forth. We were challenging each other, and we were talking about polyamory. And something happened with the software, and it glitched out, lost the entire episode.
Oh man.
And I was devastated. I was so upset. I'm like, you know what? I've got like two, three more, and I'm just going to make sure that these next couple of weeks, I just make sure that nothing goes wrong. So that's another part of the reason for the break. But we're on point now, folks. So I'm ready to get into it with you guys. So let's go ahead and dive in with my man PJ here. So, PJ, explain what it is that you do like for work right now. What's your age? What's your relationship status? And things of that nature.
I am 33 years old. I am by trade. I'm a computer engineer, but I own a business.
Okay.
We do manage IT for small businesses. So pretty much businesses who are right at the point where they need to hire a full-time IT person,
Right.
but don't have the funding to do so. We come in and we do that same work for one third the cost. Been in business since 2014. Do anything from break fix, cybersecurity, networking, software architectures, software design, app development, web design. So that's pretty much what I do is IT, and I also trade here and there as well.
Trading as well. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you guys. And so for those of y'all that don't know nothing about trading, let me tell you that is a sport that will. Oh, let's get a little bit
A
closer
little
so that we're
closer. All right.
closer in frame here. Yeah, that way it's easier for my editor to get a
No
good
worries.
thumbnail. Do the zoom ins and zoom outs, you know. So for those of y'all that don't know, trading. What all do you trade, PJ?
Um, I started off as an option trader. Got a mentor, and then from there we grew. Now we trade options, forex, and crypto. We even developed a trading algorithm for the people who want to start trading but don't really have the knowledge or the time to learn how to trade. Our algorithm pretty much tell them when to get in, when to exit, when to hold. And doing our beta tests, most people I honestly don't have the time to trade.
Yeah.
So we pivoted. Now we also offer a trading bot as well.
Mhm.
as of right now, the trading bot mainly for crypto, but we are trying to add forex stocks and options Q2 this year as well.
In Q2?
Yes.
Oh, okay, awesome, man. For those of y'all that have ever done any type of trading, like you know that obviously stock options are the ones that people are most familiar with.
Mhm.
Some people are learning more about forex. That's kind of been, it's one of the probably the biggest like things that I heard about in college, especially. And then cryptocurrency is like the new hot thing
It
where a
is.
lot of people don't
It is.
understand
A
the
lot of people think it's a
underlying.
scam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that underlying technology of blockchain. A lot of people don't understand it. But you guys, I mean, to be able to have a bot that's learning in that, and I'm assuming that you guys keep up with that on a.
Absolutely. So we develop our algorithm. Now we are pumping it into machine learning, and machine learning it is scanning all the time frame in real time and optimizing the entries and exits. But the whole reason we pivoted, going down the route of having a trading bot is I have two beautiful daughters who I love very much. So I don't want to be stuck to a computer screen all day trading. I want to be present in my kid's life. But
100%.
trading to me is about 70% mental. If you're having a bad day, simply don't trade. You can have the best signals in the world, the best technique in the world, the best system in the world. If mentally you are not there, you will lose money because the mind will start playing tricks on you where it affect what you see on the chart.
100%. I used to trade with systems in forex,
Okay.
not bot have like a plan, like I'll get in at this point, out at that point.
Mhm.
And then exactly what you say, if mentally you're mental and emotional out of whack, and now you're reacting because you see the numbers going up and
Correct.
down so fast, you make a poor move. Oh man, you are now gonna be regretting that, guaranteed.
100%. Yeah.
Probably within a very quick like 5 to 10 minutes, I would say.
Yes.
Like it is very punishing for the emotionally undisciplined. So you had mentioned that you were wanting to start spending some more time where you could delegate it to like your two girls and whatnot. So let's go ahead and dive into like this aspect of you as far as the personal side, because we want to talk to the audience today. You were interested in topics covering things related to mental health
Okay.
and how you worked in some of the things that you've gone up against, especially as related to a divorce that you had.
Okay.
I forget how long ago exactly you said it was.
About 5 years ago.
5 years ago. So take me through like set up the picture for us to be able to understand what was your journey in that. How did things begin in that for you, and how did they come to an end for you?
Oh man. Straight to it, huh? Um,
Well, we're about what 20 minutes in now.
okay. All right. So I was married. Have two daughters, 9 and 17. Me and my ex-wife, uh, been together for about 10 years or so. And the whole happy wife, happy life thing, and
Mm,
dedicated to my kids and work and the whole 9 yard. Um, it got to a point where enough was never enough,
mm,
right? Like no, we from having nice cars to a nice place to live, good paying jobs, kids in sports, fully involved, but enough was never enough. Like I felt like it don't matter what I do, like it
mhm,
was never enough. Like it was a constant struggle. Um, there was a point where I stay at work just to avoid going home. 'Cause I know
mm.
the moment I'll go home, I'll get yelled at about something that's not in my control, or
Oh
I'll get
man.
home and just sit in the driveway for like 15, 30 minutes, just um, trying to delay entering the house because I know I'm going to be in trouble for something.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that's a I feel that's something that a lot of guys probably can relate to, especially intermingling that idea of happy wife, happy life. Um, and just to kind of dive into that a little bit, what does that even mean to you? Like when you hear that, what comes to mind for you?
Um, being dedicated, being faithful, being a servant, being a provider, a protector, making sure I do anything in my power to make sure that she's good, taken care of for,
Hmm.
provided for.
Yeah.
Just trying not to argue, listen to her side, even if I know I'm right and she's wrong, but just go with her
Mm.
just to avoid arguments, stuff like that.
Okay.
But honestly, it don't work. The whole happy wife, happy life thing, to me, that don't work. I think it should be happy spouse, happy life. Relationship should be 100 from each side, not 50-50. Like, I give you all my all, you give me all your all. But at the same time, though, I'm responsible for my happiness. You are responsible for your happiness. Of course, we are here to support each other, develop, help each other grow, right? Um, but at the same time, though, you cannot put your happiness in the hand of somebody else.
Right.
I don't care if it's your husband or wife, but you are responsible for your own happiness.
I 100% agree with that. And so as you were listing like some of the things that you think about as far as like providing, protecting, and like keeping peace and things like that, these just listing it off, are you a man of faith?
I am a man of faith, yes. I don't go to church, but I am. I, I believe in doing the right thing.
Mm,
And even during my marriage, I would go to church every Sunday. I was part of the men's groups, the church group, whatever function they had. I
right.
was present. I did all that. Been there, done that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And no, just because like as you were listing it out, it I heard it and I'm thinking like, oh, this man's to me when I heard that, I said to myself, oh, he's clearly a man of faith
I am.
because these are things that are emphasized within the book of
Yeah.
Corinthians and Ephesians. And so like immediately as you said that, it made me kind of think of that. So that's why then also like as I heard that there were these issues coming about where it seemed like there was never enough, another thing that I thought of that comes to mind is the fact that so much, I think society does a pretty decent job of calling men out to the job that they need to be
Yes.
doing. We will get told we're the ones that are supposed to be out front.
Mm-hmm.
We're the ones that lead. We're
Mm-hmm.
the ones that basically it's our responsibility. However, everything falls out.
I agree.
And then when something happens with the relationship, it's even on us to figure out what happened, even if they were the one that was somehow infidel and unfaithful. What did we do that drove that? And so while I can understand, I completely understand from a faith perspective the fact that the man drives everything. I think it's my personal opinion, and you can let me know. We're I'm not afraid of disagreement on this
Okay.
show. I think that the church does a somewhat of a poor job teaching a man what it looks like on a day to day basis to be a leader for a relationship. And I think that there was a time that that men in church were overly dominant and domineering, and the pendulum has now swung super far to the other side with especially with this more female centric kind of female revolution of empowering women. And now everything is so much catering to women that men are assumably in the wrong and they're fighting an uphill battle.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. By default, we are always wrong. And especially in our society, especially in the Haitian culture, the man is supposed to carry all the weight and figure out solutions to the problem. If mental health don't really exist in the Haitian culture,
Absolutely not.
like when I told my peoples that I was having that started to struggle mentally,
Yeah.
um, they told me that I have demons and I need to go to church and pray for it. That was the answer that I
Mhm.
got.
Yeah. And that's see, man, that's the part like so when it comes to the idea of like demons and all that, I'm a person that I believe in demons. I believe in the fact that spirits can affect us and how we live, but I don't look at it as this holy third party thing where
hmm
it's a spirit and so go to church, pray about the spirit and then boom everything is gone. Like my view is that spirits are not just on a spiritual basis, but on a physical basis within the flesh, and that they are manipulating like our neurons and like our chemicals, the way that we move. And so, like, when people feel certain mental illnesses, whether it be depression, anxiety, um, gayness, um, you know, transgenderisms. Like, I believe all of that thing is actually chemically affected by spirits, affected by sin, and that people truly struggle with it at a chemically biological level.
Okay.
And so while I would agree, like there was probably a spirit in there. Also, the fact like, okay, what are the underlying effects that these spirits now had that now, in addition to casting them out, how can we deal with them in the physical world, mental health wise? Um, do you have any thoughts on that?
As of right now, no, but I'll circle back to it in a few.
Okay, cool, cool. So when it came to the aspects of like kind of the anxiety and the fear that you began to feel in this, and as you were trying to communicate it to people, were those feelings that came after things were already moving towards their end, or were those things that were facilitating things kind of going downhill?
So I'm not a talker. I try to keep everything in process it. I'm even try to like bury it deep down,
Mm.
which is a absolutely terrible thing to do. I highly not recommended. But while doing that, it slowly eats you like from
Hmm.
inside out, right? It's like and nothing worse than going through a trauma and being alone with your own thoughts.
Yes.
Um, that's when you start having the suicidal thoughts, like you already had the I'm not doing enough thoughts, the I'm not enough. Now you are alone trying to battle your demons per se, right? Trying
Hmm.
to confront it, find a solution, and it just get darker and darker and darker. Um while everything was happening, I was smiling like everything was okay, but
Yeah.
deep down it was not. And then after my divorce, I felt like a complete failure. I disappeared for like 2 years or so. Wasn't talking to my parents, my sisters. I just ignored everybody
Hmm.
calls. If I was able to function just enough to get work done and pay the bills,
Yeah.
like purely robotics,
Mm.
like where I'll just go to the motion of life.
Yeah.
But mentally, I was gone.
Yeah, man. And that's completely relatable. That is the exact feeling that I had as I was in a certain place in life, and I was dealing with um, the fallout of how the way that I'd led a relationship, and then the way that that person went through it, and some of the Man, those effects when you're just
It
walking
is a
around at
struggle,
work.
man. Like especially when you think that's that person, like that's D1. You know, you get
Mhm.
married, you have kids, and trying to make things work for the kids, trying to be passive. Um, but I'm not the type that get into arguments. So when it's time to argue, I just shut down. That's
Yeah.
my safety place, I guess, which is a terrible thing to do. If I could have done it differently, I would have tried different way of communicating.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to communicate when you are getting shut down the moment you open your mouth. But um, going through everything I've been through now, therapy, counseling, reading different books, there are different ways to communicate. But at the time, I didn't know those methods, and then it wasn't that I was too prideful to reach out for help. It was just I didn't know how to deal with it. It was a new feeling, just didn't know how to process it at the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, that feeling of like when you're doing everything you can and then somehow, because as kids, for example, if we go and we do something, we try our best, even if we get like a B on something, but our parents saw us studying all night at the table, they'd still say, you know what, I know you did your best. You got that B, that was great. And I know you can do better. So like I'm looking forward to see what you do next time. Versus you go out, you work 40 hours, 50 hours, and then every day you get home and it's like, hey, did you do this other thing here? It's like, babe, I've been working all day. Like, what the heck? Don't I get a moment to breathe? Like, where's the love? So, man, when you're those different ways of communicating that you mentioned, I think that's really important. So lay out for us what you discovered as the different ways to communicate.
Ooh. Um, what one of my favorite book that I read throughout the whole entire ordeal, mindset.
Okay.
Mindset, a highlight a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, right? My
Mhm.
ex-wife was in the fixed mindset category,
Okay.
where I am in the growth mindset. By trade, I'm an engineer, right?
Right.
We solve problems. That's what we do. It's always what's next. What can I do different? How can I improve this?
Hmm.
And those who type of mindset is not a good foundation for a relationship. I learned that the hard way.
Interesting.
And especially when you are not a talker, like a combative type of person, you just doing the whole happy wife, happy life thing, right? Yes,
Yeah.
honey, no problem.
Hmm. Okay, so let's write that again real quick,
Okay.
right, for the people. So you said what are the four? What are the four of them again?
No, just
Three.
mindset is two mindset: the
Okay.
fixed mindset and the growth mindset.
Okay, got you. So when you're of a fixed mindset, what are some properties that you can look at in the
You are
partner?
pretty much stuck in your ways, my way or the highway. I've been doing this for the past 5, 10 years, and it worked. Why change it? I'm used to doing this way. I'm used to going to work and take this route and this route and this route. What should I change it? Even if the GPS is telling you there's a better and fastest route, but I'm used to do it my way.
Okay, so how did this play into the relationship per se?
Heavily, right? That's where
Hmm.
that feelings of enough is never enough, right? Because they are used to doing things one way, even if it is inefficient. Um, you can't really truly communicate a different way of doing things. Even
So help me with like a specific thing, me and the audience, because when I hear growth, right, I'm thinking, well, if you're learning how to do something better, like you just got home from a day at work, you get home, and how would that actually look like that it would that's something that we can understand like right at face value.
it's it's hard to go into that because I'm not trying to say the wrong thing because she's a
Hmm.
great person. I have nothing against her at all.
Hmm.
Great mom. It's is the fact that knowing the moment I get into the house,
Yeah.
we are going to argue about something. It can be something so simple like walking the dog at 5:30 instead of 6 o'clock. That will
Okay.
spark an argument. Just
Yeah.
just the little tedious task.
Okay. Okay. So it was like kind of inflexibility with scheduling, maybe, or like wanting things to be on very precise timing.
I'm a I'm not super military punctual type of person, but if I have to be somewhere at 7,
Hmm.
I'll get there at 6:50. That's just the
Okay.
way I was raised.
Yeah.
My dad is a retired politician. Mom is a retired teacher. So like punctual, like that's just the way I was raised.
Hmm.
Like church, right? If church start at 10, I'll be there by 9:30, 9:50. Like growing up, dad always told me like if you were not 10 minutes early, you were late. Right. So I'm used to that. Versus her, she'll get there when she get there.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And trying not to rush her or anything, but trying to trying to be patient and stuff. But over time, it just can kind of frustrate you.
Yeah. So there is so all right, just to let you know and let the audience know, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to at the same time keep a handle on this piece of the conversation
Okay.
that we have, that is the way that we behave towards our women and that dynamic, and also at the same time the piece of the conversation that is the way that it is that certain things affected the mental side. So that's why you see me kind of parsing
Yeah.
through them. So for the audience, just understand that's what I'm trying to do here. So on the aspect of the way that church affected the relationship, your mindset, do you do you feel that you had the proper tools as far as a husband in terms of community, in terms of spiritual leaders, in terms of um, uh, any kind of tool that you could have used outside of just yourself that you could consult in order to handle the relationship well?
Absolutely, yes. Was part of a wonderful church. The men's group were awesome, all married guys. Um, but I didn't know how to approach them. Say, hey, I need help. Like, what can I do better? What can I do different? I just didn't know how to start that conversation.
Hmm.
Did I have the tools? Yes. Did I use it? No. I just didn't know how to.
Yeah. So my thought is this, and like I said, feel free to disagree. My thought is that sometimes we don't want to reach out to the males in our spiritual lives because we maybe in a certain way know that they will point the finger more at us. So for me, for example, like as you said, you avoided that conflict conversation as much as possible. When I hear that, I go, like, I know what at home looks like with my wife. Everybody who watches the podcast on a regular basis knows I adore my wife. My wife is the reason that this podcast can go on. She is an amazing woman, godly woman. And at the exact same time, when my wife starts to do that thing of that confrontational, um, we call it confrontational language, where she starts to maybe just put something on me, I'm very quick to like cut that off at the leg. And like in a way that I'm like, hold on a second. Do you realize what you just said? Hold on. I want you to really think about what you just said. Do you understand that the way that you're coming at me right now, you're coming at me and you're standing across from me? And understand, if you want to go down this path, I'll go down this path with you. So really think about, is this what you want to do? And sometimes I don't even get to make it to that. Sometimes something is said and I'm like, excuse you, what'd you just say? And so my thought is that I think that we have been so much in the church, like taught so much on the love aspect that we don't really know the correction and the reprimand
So
aspect.
I did try that way just a little bit, and I started to get labeled as controlling. So I just stopped and just let her have it her way.
Well, of course, that's what that's how people label it
Yeah,
because a man in 2023 or 5 years ago, as you said, 2018, a man having boundaries, having standards
yeah.
is looked at as being controlling, is looked at as being insecure.
So after mindset, one of the other books I read was boundaries. Right, it's about
Mm-hmm.
establishing certain limits on what work for you, what don't work for you. Right,
Right.
but even then, like when you are establishing those boundaries, we as men, we automatically get labeled as controlling.
Yeah. By society because the way that it's seen, if a person walks into a room, if it's a woman that walks into the room and says, "I really don't like this, like the way that this group is,"
Mm-hmm.
people will say, "What's wrong? Like, why?
Mm-hmm.
What's the problem? Like, why don't you like it? Is did something happen?"
Correct.
Versus if a guy walks in and says, "I really don't like what's going on with this group," that man probably his response probably will be something to the effect of like, "Oh, guess he woke up on the wrong side of the
Yep.
bed. Like, why is
Yep.
so?" There's immediately this sense of empathy that's applied to the woman, and then this sense of almost starting from the negative when applying it to the man. Um, the man is people are ready to look at the worst side of a man in a heartbeat.
Yes.
And I think that we even see that play out, especially in the church culture. I think everybody knows the importance of, for example, the pastor or the man leading.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, though, I think that we look at uh, some of these elements in almost a purely figurehead manner, though,
Mm-hmm.
in the similar way that and people look at the they might look at the president and the president's in charge, runs it, but people really know that depending on who the president is, what their competency level is, that person's just a figurehead.
Correct. It's
Who's
Congress.
really running it is
Congress.
Congress, the vice president,
The chief of
the
staff.
donors, absolutely. And so, what my feeling is largely in church culture is that the typical thing now aligns similar to what TV is doing, where TV makes men look like the hapless, like dopey men who
Mm-hmm.
are lucky to have their women,
Mm-hmm.
and the man needs to kind of get up onto the level of the woman now. And even though he's like a dopey, like couldn't take care of himself man, the woman still loves him and his family still loves him. And he's still a good guy with a good heart. But it's the idea is somewhat this incompetent man who gets teased by the wife
Mm-hmm.
and everybody still loves him regardless of his incompetencies. What do you think of that, the fact that my assertion that church is starting to maybe even a little bit further along than that, but is kind of stepping its way closer and closer to matching TV depictions of men?
Whew. All right. Let's try to be let me use my words carefully. I grew up in church.
Okay.
My both of my parents to go to church. Both of my parents are still married. So I'm used to the old school way of doing things.
Hmm.
But at the same time, times have changed, right? We are now in 2024. Um, there are certain things that worked in the past that no longer work, right? I think now on social media, the big thing is a man should be the provider, where the woman stay at home and take care of the household. But I feel like that's kind of contradicting because they want 1930 comfort,
Yeah.
but while living in 2024, right? So be able
Hmm.
to go out and do things of their choice and stuff like that. But you want the husband to be still in the 1900. It's contradicting. When it comes to the church, um, grew up in a Haitian church, man.
Hmm.
It's my way or the highway. We are doing it in one way only. Our church was so strict to the point that women were not allowed to wear pants, certain jewelry, makeup. All those were like frowned upon. That's
Hmm.
the type of church I grew up on.
Yeah.
And when I
Super old school.
super old school,
Super
man.
traditional.
So when I turned 18, I and had freedom, I I left church
Hmm.
because was grew up super strict. So I left church. And then when I got with my ex-wife, got married, and was trying to do the whole good husband, happy wife, happy life thing. Found a really good community church.
Quick question. Your wife, was she a woman of faith as well?
At the time, no. When we got married, she started going to church.
Okay.
But when she started going to church, she completely changed, not for the better.
Really?
Um, so yeah.
If you can, please detail some of that because that's where I would think like the good transformation would happen.
No, it was the complete opposite. Well, I guess in my experience, it was the opposite, where she she was more open and free, and um to the point where it became the opposite. Like things have to be done a certain way, and it's like, what do you mean? We haven't been doing that. Like, what changed now? We're like, well, that's the way it's going to 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 be, and whether you look at it or not. But what do you mean though? That's not how we was doing things. Um,
That's so strange. Like, well, okay, I know you don't want to go into a whole bunch of specifics, but if you could give like one example of like something that was a certain way, and then church inspired version of your wife started to be more like, this is the way I want to do it. Like, what's something like that?
uh, like going to so before she started going to church, I was the main one going to church, right? So where
Okay.
like New Year, for example, right? The church have the New Year service where at midnight we'll be at the church praising and stuff like that. I'll 3 years prior, like every year, I'll try to go to the church to for New Year's, and was like, no. I'm like, but it's church. Like, what do you mean? And she started going to church, and it flipped where that particular year, I, I just wanted to stay at home, and she wanted to be at church. I'm like, but we haven't gone the past 3 years because you didn't want to. So I made peace with it. But then now you change your mind. Cool, no problem. Let's go. We get there. I wasn't happy enough to be there, or
Hmm.
my body language say otherwise. I'm like, but what do you mean? I just worked 12 hours. I'm tired. Like, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I can see that. So she went with like a couple of times with you
Mhm.
and it did something good for her. And then you started to get to where she was and she got to where you used to be.
Correct.
And so you guys inverted.
Correct. I made peace with it, right?
Yeah.
But then they flip.
Hmm.
It's
So this is a huge thing. This is so big right here, bro. Um I want to I want to say this to you, brother to brother, uh, and also because I think it's something valuable for the audience
Okay.
because it's something that I have to keep in mind as well. So that the fact that you were going and it was something that you were intense about, and then that it took a while for your wife, but at some point she started to have her own feeling or relationship towards it. I think that's a good thing that she started to have this like unbending desire, like, no, I really want to be in community. I think that's a good thing when women want to be around other good women,
Absolutely.
as long as they're good women, you know? And then I do think that there may have been a huge shift in spiritual balance in the fact that you became the one that wanted to be more absent from it, whereas she was the one that was really pushing for it.
At first, I was the one that was pushing for it,
Yeah.
right? But she wasn't for it, so I back off. I backed off all the way,
Hmm.
and just made peace with it. So I had just shut down that chapter in my head that's didn't go on. Then she found her way, and we started going, and it. But I'll go just to go, like just, I'll no,
Yeah.
I'm not going
Kind
to.
of
Yeah,
obligatorily.
yeah,
Yeah.
not um not like forceful going. Just
Yeah.
I'll be present, pretty
Hmm.
much, right? Um, but just it didn't feel genuine though. Like it
Yeah.
felt like more force.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely some, I know that
Yeah,
church culture can
yeah,
change like a whole bunch of things, as you say,
definitely.
tiredness and everything like that.
I'm in IT. I'm a big nerd, right? So like something as simple as a watch. Like I got the Batman watch, the I'm having the brain fart right now, but this watch company they create like the whole DC and Marvel lineup of watches,
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's
and
dope.
so I had the Batman watch and I had the Joker watch,
Hmm.
and those got labeled as the double watch because of the
Oh,
yeah. I'm like, but that's just a watch. It's a cartoon character, like
oh, you guys
what
must
does
have
that
been
have to
going
do?
to what, like a old school Baptist or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That man, depending
And that was
on.
coming from her though, not the church. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, well, we are Marvel fans. We watch those movies together. Like, you know why I got it? Because it's just cool. It's
Hmm.
have nothing to do. She literally took a hammer and broke the watch.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, bro.
Because it was the devil. I'm like, but okay, cool, whatever.
So I know that, for example, there are certain denominations of like Christian
Hmm.
churches that believe that exact thing, and then there's like Jehovah's Witness or anything like that. It's really like a sliding scale when it comes to people and how much they look at worldliness versus purity.
But I also feel like um I'm a man of faith, but I personally don't believe in a religion.
Mhm.
Um, to me, it's being used to control the masses. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I believe in doing things right, the right way. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. But sometimes they use the verbiage in the Bible to control people. Like they interpret it to ways that benefit them at the time,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. No, there's definitely.
Versus what it's actually saying in context.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, the most prevalent ones I can think of now is the conversation where men are saying like wives should submit to their husbands, and then they just use that one verse without looking at the fact that that's in the context of like
See,
husband operating.
even right now, right? That's the common known now in social media. A wife should submit to the whole shebang. I don't believe in that. I believe it should be a partnership. Like if you work, you tired, the dishes need to be done, or, or I need to cook, I'll do it, right? Because we are in a relationship. It should be like I should be able to support you. You should be able to support me. Even the kids, I'm the one that take them to and from school every day. If, while I was married, even right now, I still do. I don't believe in the man should do one thing and the woman should do one thing. What can we do together to grow and build the household?
So let's jump into that, man, because when it comes to like that idea of essentially roles is what we're talking about.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um
gender roles.
yeah, yeah. So I do think like you brought it up, we're in 2023 where like the idea of a man doing all the working versus a woman doing purely the at-home work and like that is their roles. Um and that kind of sprouted off from the idea of like, you know, the way that men are meant to communicate.
Hmm.
So the big thing that I would say, here's the reason why I oppose the idea of like things should be 50-50. It's because men have been taught historically all the way up until maybe the past 10 to 15 years
Hmm.
that the biggest job you have as a man is to provide and protect.
Absolutely, 100%.
And so there has not been an emphasis on that teaching of, as a lot of men are coming to learn, as I learned, and as you learned as well, how to verbally communicate, how to establish boundaries without it becoming angry or violent or something of that nature. Like the biggest thing I think of, there's a difference between being aggressive and assertive. And for guys, now that people want to take on this kind of 50-50 thing a little bit more,
Hmm.
that means that now we can't just be workhorses. Now we have to be workhorses and communicators. So now we both get home from work, both of us are tired, but something needs to get done. Before it was man gets home, he's tired, woman's like, oh, I've got this thing done, I've got that thing done, don't worry. Oh honey, could you get me, you know, something to drink, something to eat, da 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 da. There was this carry the burden, support the load. Now it's both are, because things are now forced to be 50-50. Now there's both carry load, who's supporting the burden. So now basically our skills as men have not gone to be able to desire, which is brand spanking new, so much so that most of the world is still in the old school way of doing it, that says we want to be partners, but our skill sets don't match up to be partners. And so my big thing that when I think of like that, that's why I thought it was important to look at mindsets that, as you were mentioning, what things were happening, like specific examples, because when we look at the way that we navigate in relationships and expectations of us to family, these things have shifted, but our skills haven't shifted to match it. The market has changed, but our skill sets haven't changed as well.
I agree. It is also extremely difficult to communicate with someone where logic don't apply,
Hmm.
right? They only see things one way.
An,
Like, how do
an
you?
emotional being versus a
Correct,
logical being.
correct. It is extremely difficult. Uh, at a certain point, you just throw up the white flag and say, "Cool, no problem. Listen."
Yeah. Yeah, man. And that is I am curious, like, before you were a man that, as you said, you believed in, you had your faith, but you didn't prescribe to religion.
Hmm.
And you got with someone who was not any type of faith, no type of religion.
Go ahead.
And so what happened was, as this person developed and adapted your thing, because they were new in it, they were pretty much they were malleable by all kinds of influences. And she ended up getting shaped in some way that was outside of how you were shaped with it.
Hmm.
So my curiosity is for you going forward, do you see yourself having an interest in someone that is brand new or uninvolved in faith, or do you see yourself trying to line up with someone who has a similar type of belief as you?
I have a girlfriend now, and
Oh,
it's the
okay.
complete opposite.
Mm,
We share the same mindset. We do a lot of things together. I rush home. I'm happy to go home. Right?
mm,
It's a whole different environment. When it comes to faith, we share the same thing, and communication is different as well. Right?
mm-hmm,
Where okay, cool, we're having a disagreement, but let's talk about it. Right? There's no yelling.
mm-hmm.
Been together for
Would you say that your new skills with setting boundaries and knowing how to communicate have evolved since then, and that's helped a
oh
lot?
yes, tremendously,
Hmm.
tremendously. Now instead of me shutting down for things I don't agree with, or circle back and say, you know what, I don't agree with that, but let's talk about it.
Hmm.
Just just something simple as saying, let's talk about it. Just open the floor for dialogue. No yelling, no argument, just a simple dialogue. That's something I didn't have before.
That's great, man. That is great. And I mean, that goes definitely to speak to like sometimes, depending on where we are in life, like I'm sure you might agree in the same way that I would say for myself that the man that we were in our previous relationships were significantly inferior, probably somewhat less competent,
Absolutely.
less assertive about boundaries and standards of engagement
Oh man,
than the men we are
absolutely, man.
today.
I got married young. I think I was like 23, 24, fresh out of college. A lot of things were new to me, but I had a daughter trying to do things right. Got married and the whole 9 yard. Didn't want my daughter to be a bastard child, so on
Mm,
and so forth. And
yeah.
um, but since then, I have grown so much, and now I have a new group of friends as well. During my marriage, my ex-wife was my everything, right? Like that
Mm,
was my best friend. That was my boy. That was my buddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was my everything.
yeah.
I didn't have an external group of friends to reach out to. I didn't
Hmm.
have male friends, because I my my dedication was to the household,
Yeah.
right? I'll get home, do things with the kids or with her. Now, I will say this though: if I had to do it all over again, even now when people get married and stuff, I always tell them as a piece of advice: never stop dating each other. Even if it's something simple as going to the park or sit on the driveway and talk, just make time to be with each other. Kids are involved. Life became all about the kids,
Hmm.
playing sports and so on and so forth. Like, I was fully dedicated to my kids, but in that process, I neglected her.
Mm. Yeah, that man, there was a couple of pieces in there. So that was that the wife became the everything. So there's two big pieces. One, the wife becomes every, and this is something that church guys, we really got to be careful of this. Holy crap. Um, because here's the thing, we will in the church area, we will be encouraged towards that. We are encouraged to make our wife like the most important thing.
Hmm.
And it comes from the idea of encouraging us towards that is coming from a place of love. It
Hmm.
wants to support the marriage. But here's the thing, right? When we make our wives used to this thing of you're my everything, my
Hmm.
best friend. I'm going to give you so much time, so much attention, da da da. And then there's a shift that happens where we go from giving them all of that to now our attention is dispersed and now they're getting 20% of your attention and the other 80% is going to your kids, or it's she was 100% or 90% and 10% for work, whatever. But as far as all your free time away from work, now her time is cut down amongst responsibilities. Like that is something that we, especially we guys of the church world, have to be so careful of because we, it's, and it's not in as nearly as bad as the typical version of this, but love bomb them
Hmm.
and they become so infatuated because women's biggest drug is attention.
Yep.
You get it, and just like with any other drug, you get a woman's levels to being up here
Hmm.
with attention to where she is just used to this dosage, and then you bring it down here. What's going to happen? Withdrawals. And now there's a couple of ways that people handle withdrawals. Either A, they start shuddering and twitching and something glitches in the brain.
Yeah.
B, they go and they find it somewhere else.
Yep.
Or C, they become apathetic. All three of them are absolutely awful. And so while I'm not saying that we should like give our wives the bare minimum in terms of time and attention,
It's about finding a balance, right? That's why that dating thing is still important. And it don't matter if we do together for 1 days, 2 week, 10 years, 50 years, just date each other, grow with each other, develop with each other. I think that also where that disconnect came from as well,
mhm,
where if I'm always getting yelled at, um,
makes it really undesirable to
make
date
it
the
really
person. Huh?
difficult to be next to you, let alone be alone with you, right?
hmm
I'd rather be with the kids, I know I'm not going to get yelled at.
Yeah.
Right. Even being intimate, I got to a point we stopped being intimate and she thought that I was cheating on her. I wasn't. I
Mm.
just being yelled at, man, constantly, you just turn you off, like
One of the biggest thing people think is that like, oh, for a dude, all you got to do is just look sexy, and then
no,
boom, it's
no,
a green light. But
no,
like,
it's not.
yeah, especially like
It is
when there's
not.
a spiritual sense to it, especially that um there is so much that need for like the feeling of love to be in place
Mhm.
for secular guys. A secular guy, no matter how angry, upset he is at his woman, he can probably shut that off for a moment and just let the testosterone
I
take
can't.
off. For us guys, as
I can't.
spiritual guys, we are so much we are softer than secular guys by nature of the fact that we allow for spirit and we allow for just more of that introversion,
Mhm.
and communication is more important. We are just softer. And so we, as much as we have testosterone, we also, because of the things that we emphasize, like communication, love, like being present, that feeling of responsibility we have towards her and the family, when we are off mentally, therefore affecting our chemicals at that level, it is like there is no getting around it.
Correct. Yeah.
And so, like, that is certainly an element that's huge. So I wanna know, like, as far as, so you learned about these mindsets. These mindsets now play a huge difference for you.
Mhm.
What else did you learn in that in between time of your ex and now your girlfriend? What else did you
Oh,
learn that helped you out?
another great book, The Five Love Languages.
Ah.
Another great book, right? And the way that we want to be loved is actually the opposite, right?
Hmm.
So, where I thought that I was speaking her love language, but that whole 10, 12 years, I wasn't. I was doing the complete opposite. Um, Something as simple as quality time. That's one of her love languages that she wasn't getting because I didn't want to be alone with her because
Mm,
you know, um, I'll rather be at work or be with the kids,
yeah.
just so I don't get yelled at, you know.
Hmm.
But that's something that she needed. That was one of her love languages that she wasn't getting from me,
Hmm.
and that pretty much escalated to
Yeah. And what I've learned about when it comes to the discussion of love languages, women and men typically, like if I were to use a very broad brush, I would say you could pretty much know majority of women's love languages and men love languages. Men's love languages is typically going to be a combination of physical touch
Mhm.
and or first or second or sharing first place, physical touch and words of affirmation. If a man has those two things, he'll be fine. Quality time, we don't really need quality time. If we're out working,
Yeah.
come home, maybe we want to be alone for a bit, maybe we want to
So
read something, watch something.
the old school way of doing things, right? Growing up in the church, we as men are programmed to do act of service.
Mhm. Yep, yep. Mowing the lawns, paying the
Yep.
bills, checking up on parents.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how we're taught especially in the church to show love is acts of service,
Correct.
100%.
Act of service and gift giving, right?
Yep.
But
When it comes to women, the most common love languages that I see with them are number 1, quality
quality
time,
time.
number 2, words of affirmation actually. Let them know that they're still fine and sexy. Let
Mm-hmm.
them know you still desire them. Let them know you can't wait to see them in a certain outfit. And then spend that time with them. Let them know,
100%.
like, and there are, of course, there's those people that they're the outliers. But if I would, like I said, if I were to paint a broad brush, I would say I could confidently go to a woman, and if I wouldn't now because I'm married, but if I was when I was in the dating game, what I learned was across the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
you could give a woman quality time and words of affirmation, and boom, you were probably going to satisfy a great majority of them. And then that's pretty much it. Now, of course, you got to learn your partner, who
Of
you're
course.
with, and some girls like acts of services because they're super busy,
Mm-hmm.
and anything you do to help is huge for them. Um, but that is something that if you as a man can learn, like especially if and most guys are living in a world where 50-50 partnership is the thing that is important, like that quality time, homie. And it's not just about being physically in a space. You need to be physically in a space, yes, but you need to know the skills that come with making quality time high quality time. So, how can you be a good communicator in that? How can you be attentive? Make her feel heard and listened to. How can you validate her her feelings, her words, and then how can you make her feel desired and inspire her in that quality time that y'all are together with? Like those things right there, I'm gonna have to go back, get my editor to like mark those out because I really think those
Okay.
things right there are super
They
important.
are. They really are.
Um, I think the biggest thing, like if a woman cannot feel inspired by her man, I think the relationship is doomed to fail. As soon as that woman stops feeling admiration and inspiration, because women are such emotional creatures, that is the beginning of the end.
You know what? Now we are talking about it out loud.
Hmm.
It started to click and making sense now. Why that some of the reason that 360 happens, where she was a certain way, and then all of a sudden the switch flipped,
Mm.
doing the opposite, right? The things that she needed, she wasn't getting from me. Like the quality time, the being wanted, well, feeling wanted, because
Hmm.
I pretty much was in my head, right? So I went to my head, my safe place. I just stayed there and just full blown dad mode. She was a stay at home mom as well, so all the bills was on me.
Mm,
I tried to do the whole old school way of doing things. It don't work.
yeah. Yeah.
At least not for me. It didn't work for me.
Well, what it is the old school way of doing things, it's really tough. And our culture before made us as men understand it a certain way, and it made women understand it a certain way. But our culture now makes it to where women want more, whereas men are satisfied because we were at a good place. Because women are now exposed to more, they therefore want more. Either they want more materially, they want more relationship wise, they want more just like in their own, like, I can do more. Most usually I find that it is a sense of like, if the woman that is a housewife now, she is almost made to feel like she's not doing enough.
She's not contributing enough. Yeah.
Exactly. Um, and like it's like, and if you get on all kinds of social medias, girls will tell you all the time, "Oh, honey, you can do so much more than just be a stay-at-home wife." What if that woman really just wants to be a stay-at-home wife?
what what worked for one household might not work for the next household, right?
Absolutely.
Where I know people where um, the wife stay at home, the husband pay everything, and she get a stipend. I know people where they both work and they both contribute toward their success, their 401k, their kids, the whole 9 yard. I know people where they both work and the wife manage the finances, right?
Hmm.
Different household have different ways they do things that work for them.
Yeah.
Just because something worked for you might not mean it will work for me. But on
Hmm.
social media, it's mostly a one way
Yeah.
type of mindset,
100%.
and which I don't think I saw a video the other day on Facebook where uh the husband have a PhD in finance, right?
Hmm.
So they both work, but her paycheck get deposited into the joint account.
Hmm.
He managed everything, he invested, and he gave her an allowance. And the comment section was just awful. I was like,
Oh,
oh, he's
did
controlling. Get out. But
did you see financial abuse? Financial
yeah,
abuse.
I'm like, but that was her saying that though.
Hmm.
That wasn't him saying it. Clearly,
Yep.
that worked for them. She's happy. And in the very beginning, she put the disclaimer out there that she is terrible with money,
Hmm.
right? And you have someone that's qualified, a PhD in finance.
Yeah.
I think it's qualified to handle,
I mean, that's the perfect example. Bro, that's why I say like the most important thing for guys when it comes to like this whole dating thing and maintaining relationship and marriage and all that. One, boundaries,
Boundaries.
communication, and making sure that each of you knows like, hey, this is where I like you. Let's reverse. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to say this in a way that won't spark
See,
argument.
so that is something I struggle with. So I'll ask you this though: how do you approach that without coming off as controlling?
So there's been so here's the thing. First, the issue that we have is that we look at it and we say, I don't want to be controlling. Well, what we all have to realize is that the word controlling no longer means what it used to mean. The word controlling used to mean that you were a man that had full physical, financial, sexual, like all of these things, and your wife only did things based off of what you allowed her to do.
Okay.
Versus now, us having a boundary isn't us controlling their language, it's us controlling what we allow to be given to us. So, for example, um, I'll go last night. I get personal on the podcast all the time.
Okay.
I was on the phone talking to my brother.
Okay.
He's telling me some crazy stuff. My wife comes up and she's like joking around, giving me a hard time. And I'm like talking to her and him at the same time. He's talking about something crazy. So I'm trying to like get him to calm down. And in my head, I have these ideas of like, okay, no, you need to back off that idea. You need to calm down. Hold on, babe. Give me a second. And so I end up saying like, you need to back off, like calm down, give me a minute. But it seems like I'm directing it at her.
Mhm.
And she gets hurt and all these things, right? So essentially she got upset, she walked away, and from any place, like somebody would be like, wow, that was really harsh. And that would make sense. So now this is where the communication comes in. I now have to come and I have to be like, honey, look, it's not that I was, and I explained to her my I have so much I can take in. I was having two types of conversations. I was trying to listen to both of them and respond to both of them. And I was trying to get you to wait while addressing something serious over here. And, one thing that we always have to do, we always have to acknowledge their feelings. Even if the feelings are purely just that feeling, nothing based in reality, we always have to acknowledge it. So I told her, I'm like, look, I'm sorry if that made you feel like I was upset with you. I was not upset with you at all. I was overwhelmed. And so I was thinking this with him and I communicated it to you. But, this is why it's important that, and because this was also, so I did that, but at the same time, I asserted a boundary. I said, honey, when I'm on the phone talking to people, when I'm da 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 da, and this is different, she's Puerto Rican. I'm very American boy.
Oh man,
So
you just triggered me. My ex-wife is Puerto Rican.
So you probably know the culture they have where
yes,
when
I do.
someone is on the phone, everybody's involved in the conversation.
Yes.
Right? So I'm on the phone to her. That doesn't make her say, oh, he's on the phone. Let me hold on a 2nd. She's like, oh, you're on the phone. Oh, hey, what's going on? Hey, honey, why don't you da da da? For me, because of how I am, Black and Asian, when somebody's on the phone, everyone around shut up.
Yep.
Let this person have that conversation
Same with the Asian
quietly.
culture. Yep.
And then afterwards, if that person is somehow pulled into that conversation, now you can join. Besides that, shut up.
Yeah. So just to piggyback on what you just say, throughout the self-discovery stage, I learned that my brain operate like a queue system. Like it's like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4.
Right.
If I'm on step 2, let's not skip to step 4. I will get to it, right? That's something I learned just recently, where she will say certain things, I don't acknowledge it right away, and make me feel like I wasn't listening. But that wasn't the case. Now, what I could have done differently is acknowledge it and say, hey, babe, let me get back to you on that. I hear you, but I'm doing something right now. Let's circle back to it. But now, doing the discovery stage, I learned that.
Hold on. So for myself in the audience, give us this again. You said you're on a queue system, and does that mean that there's multiple systems?
Like I'm in IT, right? So I can multitask like crazy. I have multiple screen, being in a meeting, coding. I can do multiple things at once, right?
Okay.
But at the same time, though, in my head, things are done in sequential order, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
I will hear it and store it and come back to it later. But when I store it, I don't acknowledge that I heard you, right?
Okay.
I just process it internally and say, what I could have done differently and say, hey, babe, I heard you, but I can't work on that right now.
Yeah.
Give me about 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
So to them, it make them feel like you were not listening. My girlfriend, to tell me all the time, I know how you are. I'll just wait till you come back to me.
I love that.
She will say something Monday, and I'll I'll talk about it Friday, right? But she know how I am,
Mm.
so she don't. That doesn't turn into an argument because
Yeah.
she know how my brain work. It's
Mm-hmm.
not out of ill intent, but that's something that she took the time to learn, right? But
Yeah.
now that I know that's something about myself, when I hear something, or I'll at least the very least acknowledge it,
Yeah.
and then circle back to it later.
Okay. So you figured out that that's how your brain works.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I'm really good at doing multiple things at once. Like I'll be in a meeting while trading, while fixing the client computer,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can do multiple things at once, but when it comes to conversations, I don't want to say the wrong things. So I
Yeah.
always stop and think first
Mm-hmm.
before words come out of my mouth. That, especially with my stuttering,
Mm-hmm.
it helped to slow down and think about it first,
Yeah.
then say it out loud. So when it comes to conversation, I'm very particular about what I say and how I say it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't acknowledge things right away, just to make sure I think about it first,
Yeah.
just to make sure I'm not offending the person I'm talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just came from a situation where no matter what I say, get taken into the one context
Yeah.
and twisted around and used as a weapon. So now I'm way more cautious with my words.
That makes 100% sense right there. And I think that's something a lot of guys, especially because, this podcast, a lot of podcasts out there are meant to appeal to like the top men in the top 10% as far as highest earners, tallest, most attractive, da 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 da. But this podcast is meant to talk to the average man in that lower 80, lower 70%. And so I think a lot of guys have to learn, what is your brain style? Are you a non-multitasker? Are you somebody that like you have to handle something right then and there, otherwise you won't handle it? Like a lot of guys need to figure that out and learn their brain, and then they need to communicate that. That's one thing that I would say that now you and I are good at, is we can probably identify what are some offsets in the way that we communicate, and how do we communicate that to our
See,
partner.
but that's why that self discovery stage is extremely important, right?
Hmm.
That's why in the very beginning I had to say I'm responsible for my happiness and my well doing, because those are things about me that I didn't know before.
Yeah.
Now I do, but prior to that, I didn't know that about myself.
Hmm. That's good, man. And a lot of guys don't even care about that stage until they've been forced to think about it and care about it through some type of heartbreak or some type of relationship, family, or friend that ended, and maybe that person passed away and they never made it right. Like a lot of guys, we don't look at learning these soft skills until pain forces us to.
Pain is a terrible but great teacher. um, I'm big on books now. It's crazy because growing up, mom being a teacher, she used to force me to read. Man, I used to
Hmm.
hate reading. Now being a entrepreneur and stuff, I try to read at least 2 books a month. It's audio. Do things backward. I will listen to it on audio.
Hmm.
If I like it enough, I'll buy the physical paper book.
Ah.
Right? It's make no sense, but it worked for me. So I'll Felling Forward by John Maxwell. Right?
Mm.
Sometimes bad things happen to us, and we wonder why us. Like we start questioning our whole existence. Like why me? Why am I going to do this? Right? But the proper question that we should be asking ourselves: why not me? Right? I'm going to this experience for a reason. Um, I fail for a reason. Same thing with trading, right? Trading, you might have a strategy, a system, um, where you take a trade 50 times and you lost all 50 times, but that's okay. But doing that 50-time tryouts, what did you learn from it? What could you have done differently to adjust your strategy to make it profitable? Could you have used a different time frame, a different entry, wait for certain confirmations? Um, Now, as we are going through things, try to slow down, even try to stop and process it a little bit, where to see the positive out of
Hmm.
the negative,
Yeah.
right? For the trading algorithm, our entire secret sauce was coded backward.
Hmm. Wow.
That, like, we can literally detect manipulation in the market right before they happen, based
What?
on volume, right? And I was drinking and coding, and when my partner told me what he wanted to do, I, I coded it backward, and that mistake turned out to be the foundation of our business 3 years in,
Holy
right?
smokes.
But it, it took us a year to realize what we had. Like,
That's wild.
we can see certain things happen on the chart when, let's say, like, the government just approved the Bitcoin ETF, right? And a ton of volumes just jump into the market, right?
Hmm.
And now the people that just bought that recently bought Bitcoin, they bought it at the top. Now on the way here was a hard reversal, right?
Hmm.
Our system is able to detect the hard reversal before it happened,
Hmm.
but that was a pure mistake.
Wow.
But we took the time though to study it and realize what we had. I
Hmm.
had to go through my divorce, through my mental hardship to be where I am today. A lot of after my divorce, I disappeared for like 2 years. Um, just ignored everyone on earth. Then I got back into the car scene and met some great people. Um, in our car scene, met my business partner Chris.
Man, that
He's
that
the
touches on
one.
something so important. The point that I wanted to emphasize is it is so important, and I talk about this a lot with my co-host Horatio. Men need to go into a point of isolation at some point in their lives, and they need to be around other brilliant men.
It's not recommended, but we need to. Sometimes we need to.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to slow down.
And I mean, I think we look at it and it seems like a crazy, scary idea, but like, man, if we go back to, the thing that you and I look at, our faith, and we look at Jesus, for example, that man isolated constantly. He started out his mission by going and being isolated 40 days
Mhm.
and nights from everyone else and just suffering, And so, like, when you say you were away for 2 years, I don't think that's crazy. I know when I was picking up the pieces for myself, I went on a road trip and where I just drove for hours and hours. And I love going into the forest and just
Oh
screaming and
man,
just like, I love going to restaurants and being by myself eating, but being like around something happening. Like that was my jam.
I absolutely love driving, right? But got married, was doing the responsible dad thing.
Hmm.
So so the sold the sports cars, had pickup trucks and SUVs and stuff. Then after my divorce, got back into the car scene. It was part of me that was missing that
Hmm.
I didn't know was missing,
Yeah.
right? Like, for most people, cars is an appliance.
Hmm.
It's a ways to get from A to B.
Yep.
But to us, to us cars enthusiasts, it's a lifestyle.
Hmm.
It's not to show off. It's not for the brand name. It is literally part of us. Like, we do a lot of rallies where a group of us get together and just drive for hours. Yes,
Yeah.
gas is expensive, but that's our happy place.
Hmm.
And all the people who are involved in my life right now after my divorce that I have a super close relationship with, I met them all through cars.
Yep. And that's what's so important, bro, is that we have to find for me, my thing was dance. My version of that was dance and church. I would go to dance class twice a week. You know, I would tell people my favorite days of the week are not Friday, Saturday, Sunday. My favorite days of the week are Tuesday and Thursday because that's when my dance classes were. That's where I had my awesome dance teachers who were hilarious men, and then it was a classes full of beautiful women. You know, that was, those were and then in church, that's where, I'm getting closer to God and all that stuff was cool.
Mhm.
But for the longest time, that Tuesday and Thursday, that mix of men teacher and then women around was
Mhm.
my jam. And so like, yeah, I think that was such a huge thing. I really
Hobbies for
wanted to,
us men is extremely
and it's
important.
so important not to lose that the more we get into our
Mhm.
relationship. Like this thing of like wife was everything. I think it's important that she feels like she's everything, but that we maintain what makes us us and that we have some amount of time that we dedicate to this important element. So we're getting close to the end here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask basically some wrap up things and
Okay.
then we're gonna close out.
All right.
So the first thing I want to say, brother, is as a man of faith as well, I know we may look at our faiths a little differently,
Mhm.
but what I can tell is that we are men that could give encouragement, but also probably call each other out and call each other
We have to hold each other accountable.
absolutely. And we have to do it in a way that is true, but also shows caring in a place that we, like you said, you didn't know how to come to your guys. We have to make it so that we can come to each other. And so I would love to, me and you be able to be in that type of community type relationship with
Okay.
each other, So I
I'm
want
for
to,
it. Let's do it.
yeah, man, I want to invite you to that. My number is always open.
Okay.
Feel free to do that. But for the audience, I want you to give them like for a young man that needs to learn how to set boundaries, how to communicate, how to really build out those soft skills of himself. I want you to give the 3 books that made the most impact on you.
Okay. The most impact on me: boundaries,
Mhm.
mindset. And one second, I have a list.
Boundaries was the name of one book.
Hmm.
Okay.
And the next one is mindset.
Do you know the authors of these books?
Not from the top of my head. No, I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem.
And so many books.
Mhm.
The 80/20 principle.
Okay.
Someone recently told me another one that I just started, like I'm on chapter 2. Let's see. One second. I'm trying to put it up. Sorry.
Sure thing. And what I may want to do is after the show, if you could find
Meditation. Sorry. It's Meditation by Marcus.
meditation. Okay. Um, I may look to see like who are the authors of these books
Okay.
from you, and that way to
I
be
will
able
send
to
it over
just
to you.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect, yeah. Just so that way, any listeners, especially the young men that listen to this, most of the men that listen to this, I have an 86% male audience,
Okay.
and of that, the vast majority, like 25 to 44 aged, it's like I think it's something between like 39 and 54% is that audience, and then the other split is between like 19% of them are between the ages of like 16 to 24,
Hmm.
and then 56 plus is maybe like 17%.
Okay.
So very a lot of men in our age range.
Awesome.
So definitely send me those. I'll put
I
those as
will.
resources for the men. Um, and then what are 3 elements from this conversation that you want to make sure that the listener takes and can apply going forward from this conversation?
Um, if you are i- in a relationship or going to be in one, marry, what whatever it is, make time for each other. Never stop dating each other. As time progresses, we get busy, get promoted, have kids, the whole 9 yard. But go back, go back to the roots. Go to the mall, get some ice creams, go to the movies. Dating don't have to be extravagant. A walk in the park, just the two of you without the kids, that will make a really big difference. Communication. I can't stress on that enough. It's not it's not always what you say, it's how you say it. There are like softer ways of approaching a situation. Even if you are angry, take some time, cool off, and come back to it. Don't go to bed angry. It's not worth it. It's really not. But if you feel yourself getting at that point of anger, just take a deep breath, stop, slow down. You don't want to say some things that you don't mean, right?
Hmm.
And the third thing will be to make time for yourself. Like you are your star player. Spend time with yourself. Just self care is extremely important. And if you
So
have a
big.
hobby, video games, driving, golfing, basketball, just make some time for yourself so you can develop and grow within yourself. You can't make someone else happy if you yourself is struggling.
Absolutely, 100%. Um, the next piece that I want to ask you is, what are three questions that you might have for me that you want me to answer? They can be about anything I will answer, honestly.
What made you start this podcast? Like, why is your focus on mental health?
Mm, love that, man. So the reason why I wanted to start this podcast is because, as we mentioned, at a certain point, I was at a bad space and I turned to certain resources to figure out, why did the relationship end? What did I do wrong? How do I get better? How do I have a relationship where this doesn't happen again? And I found various resources. A lot of them were insanely soft, very liberal based things that actually facilitated me being more creepy. To be blunt, it facilitated me being more creepy because it emphasized the soft skills so much that it took out essentially all essence of masculinity. And so I thought it was very important that while some of the soft skills are emphasized, I think
Hmm.
it's important. The other piece that you'll see is that you'll see guys that completely ignore the soft skills altogether. They say, as long as you're attractive enough, as long as you make enough money, and as long as you have a good enough ability to satisfy your woman in bed, it doesn't matter what else happens.
It's good for now, but it's not sustainable.
Right. And so I wanted to figure out a platform that emphasized the importance of masculinity, emphasize how important it is to call out your woman when she is talking crazy or when she's being disrespectful,
Okay.
but also how to do that in a way that is intelligent on your front to where you're still doing it, but you're doing it not as a slap, but as a leader that is calling out like these blemishes so that they can be worked on.
Okay.
And I couldn't find, I'd seen some contents where little bits and pieces sprouted through, but they were always by guess. It was always the guest, a Christian man that was a guest, or it was some, like a bodybuilder who kind of broke the idea, but maybe he didn't, maybe he was a player himself. So there was never a man that did it in this masculine leader way that looked at the soft skills and was doing it from a monogamous standpoint. That was something I didn't see at all. And so I wanted to be able to do that and create that place. And I wanted to give a place where, the average man is brought on to a podcast to be able to talk out to, at this point, this is reaching, up to, a couple hundred people.
Okay.
on the content that goes out, and then some of the shorts reach a few thousands of people.
Awesome.
So thank you. So as it's growing, I want the average man. A lot of podcasts only have guys that have millions of followers, hundreds of thousands of followers, but the average guy isn't heard too much. And I want to make the average man feel heard, and I want to make the average man have a tool set that he can take into life that he can apply. Not that he has to, make all this money and have all these things in place. He has to have knee surgery so that way he's over 6 feet tall to command respect. How can he, as a 5'7" man that may be slightly overweight, such as myself, how can he have a loving wife, do the thing that he loves to do in life? And even if he's not, how can he use it as a stepping stone to get to where he wants to be? How can he live a life filled with purpose, joy, excitement, and those that love and respect him, all while doing it with humility, but confidence?
Okay.
And so I said, you know what? Build it and they will come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you had to go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what will it be?
It would be, it's okay to be curious about things, but do not be so open-minded about things that you let your brain fall out. I used to be very curious, and I used to be okay with like trying out a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And by doing that, I led a relationship that was otherwise very loving and very good. I led it in such a way that I made the person feel uncared for. And that came purely from me being more interested in all these other things and, allowing my curiosities to be more important than my role as a leader. And I would just really emphasize to myself, you're not as smart as you think you are. All the curiosity in the world will not teach you as much as what the Bible has to teach you. Respect it, take it seriously, and you'll protect this relationship.
Okay. Any advice for myself?
For yourself, man, there's been so much that's been so good that I've been so happy to hear about. I love the time that you spent apart for yourself, the community of men that you built, the fact that something clicked in this conversation that you recognized. If I had to give a piece of advice to you, it would be that the job that you're doing in learning how to handle these soft skills are great. And just to continue to build out that skill set, because clearly you're a man that is competent in the financial realm. Clearly you're a man that's competent in the social realm. Continue to build out those social skills.
Okay.
And also make sure that you are continuously making time to grow yourself spiritually, because you can become so wise in an earthly sense, but if you are dead spiritually, you can find yourself lacking substance when all of that comes to abundance. And so just make sure you're feeding yourself spiritually. That's so important.
Okay.
I find.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I felt like this has been a really good episode with PJ. And I came at you like pretty direct. Like,
Yeah. No hold back, no warning.
yeah, you guys, when I do these episodes, sometimes I meander a little bit, but just from the conversation that we had when we met, I'm like, you know what? We have a lot to dig into here. And I wanted to, like, if there was something for you to gain from that, I wanted you to gain it. And I wanted for us to be able to flush it out so much. So I hope it didn't feel too aggressive.
Not at all. Not at all.
Thank you guys for watching so much. This has been our first episode back in the year. I hope it was a good one. I hope you guys enjoyed it, that you could take something from here. You guys, we're back. We're heavy. And so I'm excited to be bringing you guys this content once again. Make sure you like and subscribe, comment, your experiences of some losses that you've had. Comment how you've had to grow from that pain and learn like what you did and where you failed at. And then let's make sure that we're learning from that and growing from that in the year of 2024. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching this episode on the playback. It's been a pleasure to be your host as Devahntau Colonel. Let's go ahead and give it up one time for our man PJ. And I almost didn't do another signature thing of the podcast. PJ, what is something that I and the audience can pray for you about, something that you may be struggling with, something that you may be excited for, and have high hopes for? What can we pray for you about?
Um, Courage to keep going. We created this product, TechBots, to help people trade. It's a new journey. Doing a lot of things that is new to us that we don't know what to do. So every day is a learning opportunity. Just courage to keep going, to keep pushing through. We started this to help people make extra money in the financial market. But what we learn is, in order to help people, you have to
Mm-hmm.
be in a position to help yourself.
Mm,
So right now we are in a process of going for our angel round phase to raise money to finish the software. Just pray for me to have the courage to keep going forward, man. It is a difficult journey.
absolutely. All right.
All right, thank
So,
you, man.
uh,
Appreciate it.
pleasure, man. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that we've been able to come and sit with PJ. We are thankful for his safe travels, for his willingness to have this open hearted conversation, to speak honestly about things that he's learned and throughout all the pains that he's had. And we're so thankful for the ability to communicate to all those that may come upon this content in the future, Lord. We pray that PJ, as he continues forward, that he can move forward with courage, Lord. We know that these things of taking things to investors and getting angel rounds and raising funds can be something that is a tricky situation. It can be challenging. And we just pray that you would give him the indomitable spirit to be able to do that without hesitation, without any sense of doubt, to just trust you in that process and allow you to guide everything that he does, that your will would work further and work stronger than even his own, Lord, and that he would lean to you first and foremost, and that you would bless all of his endeavors as you have planned for him. And we pray that he's able to just see any kind of success that you may have for him and any type of lesson that you may have from him for him to learn throughout this process, Lord. And we're so grateful just for this opportunity to be able to come together in this fellowship, Lord. We pray that the audience has been blessed in this content and that they've been able to learn something, and that we can all come together as brothers in the year of 2024, striving to be better, making a better life for ourselves and those that we care for and love. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Pleasure, my
Well
man.
received.
You guys, I've been your host, Devahntau Colonel. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.
Have a good one.
And that.
Man, the time actually flew by. When you say I want to have.
Oh, let me make sure to turn this off. He said the time flew by for you, huh?
Yeah. But I did appreciate the fact that it was a conversation.